What if some aspects of the direct market went away? What if comic shops, instead of ordering and taking that risk and thus getting more of the money, what if they went to returnability, where the publisher basically feeds out the comics, you're basically buying a certain unit volume, and you can have full returnability, but you'd lose that upside, but you'd have more stability and security in your business. Would comic shops go for that? Yeah, they wouldn't. Let me explain why. Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've done a lot of videos on comic shops, and I want to actually say one thing before I get to this question, because whenever I do a video like helping the comic shop, and there's a couple people, Ryan Wilson, a couple people in the comments made this similar comment of, why so much attention to helping the comic shops? Why should we help the comic shops? If the comic shops are not good at their business, if they're driving away customers, if they're not willing to change, then why should people kind of bend over to help the comic shop? And I get that. I get that response. I guess my answer to that is, number one, any business, any industry, comics, medical supplies, gas stations, whatever it happens to be. If the person running that business is not interested and invested in growing their business, if they take it for granted, if they let things fall into disrepair, whatever it happens to be, then yeah, you don't. The expression is don't throw good money after bad, meaning don't invest good money or good time into somebody who clearly doesn't value it. And so if you have a comic shop, for example, if you have a local comic shop you go to, and you go there because you need your comics, but the comic shop owner or the people who work there seem disinterested, they don't help, they're bored, they're complacent, they kind of rude to you, then two comments. Number one, find a new comic shop. And I say that kind of flippantly. Maybe in your area there's only one, so you're stuck with this. So I get that, but in general, don't shop at places that don't value you as a customer. That's just don't. That's crazy. And number two, that's not most comic shops. Most comic shops are fighting in their various ways to survive. They do need help. They do need assistance. And so I guess I'm kind of saying it for granted that when I say let's help the comic shops, unspoken, and I please I don't want to have to add this disclaimer every single time I do a video. Um, that doesn't include the ones that don't care, the ones that are clearly driving away people's business, the ones that are uninterested. Yeah, I'm not saying hey everybody should do a Herculean lift to help out those shops that aren't helping themselves. That's nuts. In general, there are a lot of good businesses, good people, good owners. I do believe, and I believe with evidence, that is the majority of comic shops. But let's not have the handful of dopes who are just kind of either running a lifestyle business because they don't really need to make money, or they're just rude and bitter or whatever else. That's not. I don't want to spend time talking about those guys. Already I've done enough. So the summary on those people are, yeah, they should go out of business, and they will. We don't need to invest so much energy into talking about the shops that don't need help. Anyway, to the question at hand, and this question came from Bambos. Thank you very much. Would comic shops cope with sale or return, bearing in mind they would lose the ability to order the number of books they want? I would say, first of all, not necessarily, but let's get to the rest of your question. I can't see publishers and distributors supplying hundreds of copies on the whim of comic shops. No, they wouldn't. Are most, if not all, shop owners used to firm sales, having been born post direct sales? Could they accept a change if it happened, and would it be a good thing? It's an intriguing question because basically the market and retail in general is being transformed. It's changing very, very radically right now. And so it is, comic shops probably need evolution. They need it in a bunch of different places. They need to diversify their content. They need to be thinking about kind of more the experience-driven comic shop, which I've talked about many times in the past. They do need to institute a change. And by the way, there's not just one change. Depending on the market, the audience, the customer base, there's dozens and dozens of ways shops can change, and many are. Many are evolving their business. Some are getting more into tabletop games. Some are getting more into providing media. Some are really kind of trying to become experts in back issues and collector zones. Some are going online. Some are commissioning original art. There's just a lot of different approaches that companies, comic stores are using. But one that is unlikely to come out of this is if you came to the comic shops and say, all right, here's the deal. We're going to take away the kind of trappings of the direct market, and we're going to go for returnability. But in return to that, you're going to have a lot less control in what you order. We're going to send you units. You're going to basically, we're going to look at your sales track record. You're also going to help us by saying, I have this much volume in traffic, so I can move 200 copies of Batman. So we're going to send you 200, and if we're doing an anniversary issue, we're going to send you 250. But that's our choice, not the comic shop's choice. We're going to send you units. You sell them. Your percentage goes down. Instead of making kind of your old market, you're now going to make 10% on the markup, and that's what you're going to get. But you can return everything, so you're not taking a risk in this process, or less of a risk. Most comic shops won't go for that because that drop in revenue would be destructive for them. Even with things being dodgy, even with comic shops making bad bets at times on comics that won't sell, it's still that you're talking about a major financial hit to a shop that doesn't have margin to take that hit. Now, that doesn't mean a new shop couldn't open up under this model, but there'd have to be a lot of them for the publishers to want to go for it. And nobody's going to enter the retail market selling comics right now at that kind of margin. There's just, it would be, yeah, it would be nuts. Nobody would actually do it. And I think for the publishers and the distributors, in many ways, I think they don't have a burning need to change either. Now, I think this argument of supplying kind of units to stores and having that really be managed at the publisher level, not at the shop level, would be welcomed by a lot of publishers. I think they would like it, and it would be great. However, it would require them to invest more into their business. So I guess I said that wrong. I think it would be good for a lot of the publishers. I don't think it would be welcomed because they wouldn't know how to actually pull that off. They'd have to hire new staff. They'd have to get more into the business of in distribution. And the reality is they don't feel like they have to. Marvel in particular and DC and others are in this world where they know the game they're playing. They know the books they're producing. They know to kind of offer them up, write the solicitations, get them out there, get them distributed. In Marvel's case, by Diamond, and then they kind of lose track after that. They don't really care. I mean, on some emotional level, I'm sure some people, some individuals care about if the comics actually go into the shop and get sold to humans and the human reads them. But at a company level, they're all geared toward that kind of get the comics to the distributor and have that part of the cycle work, and that's how they view the business. So that would be a major change for them, and it's one that they don't feel terribly motivated to shift. A lot of people involved in making those decisions they're not doing profit sharing. They don't. So put it this way: if Marvel suddenly increased their margin from 20% to 40%, and suddenly them as a company are making a lot more books, but they're having to take the risk on returnability and everything else. Even if it was financially sound for them to do that, a lot of people wouldn't take it. They don't make more money. They don't get a bonus for being more successful in that area. So, what's in it for them would be the statement. I think that's unfortunately that's both sides. I think comic shops have a really hard time adapting to it, both financially and just mentally, and the publishers as well. Even though financially, potentially, it could be a benefit to them, it would really put the risk and the onus on them to make sure that they're producing comics that actually would sell through. Because if they do this plan and then suddenly 80% of the content's being returned, that would be a disaster. And I don't think they want that risk either. So I just it wouldn't. It's unfortunately the way the comic business is right now. It wouldn't go. And frankly, I think it's far more likely that the publishers would just go 100% digital and bypass or forget the print market entirely before they'd ever go back to this. I think that's unfortunately that's kind of where we're at as a business and as an industry right now. As a as a shop owner, I would there's merit to what you're saying here, the idea that you're giving, but I guess, and maybe this is where I'm a fool. I have confidence in my own ability to understand my market and predict what I think that market will buy. And generally, I'm right. I, as a shop owner, I didn't have massive amounts of unsold copies. You'd see all these people posting on Twitter and videos about, look at all these stacks of America Chavez. Oh my God, no, they're not selling. Comic store owners are stupid. And I think, I don't know what comic shop owner was ordering massive amounts of America Chavez like number six. Like by that point, everyone was aware what it was selling. Like you'd have to be a thorough idiot, and I guess there were some, but those people go out of business very very rapidly because they just they don't sell the stuff. And yes, there's sometimes Marvel overship stuff, but I mean you're paying for the freight. The freight is not much money. You can recoup that money by just taking those unsold copies down to half price books, which tons of people do. If you've ever gone to a used bookstore like half price books and you go through there, like there are a lot of Iceman number ones in here. The Iceman Volume 2 number one by Cena Grace. There's just you will find a lot of them in there because Marvel overshipped that book, and everybody I knew in the area was just dumping them off. In fact, there was a comic shop owner down in Tukwila or in that area. I don't think that shop's open anymore. At any rate, he was going around to other shops collecting up the copies of that book, writing them down, and taking them in mass to half price books, getting cash and distributing the money back out. It was like, like no, that's what happened. So overships are not really the issue, but I mean any comic shop owner that is buying that kind of stuff, and I'd like to believe there are not many of those people out there, either because they're smarter or because the dumb ones are gone. But it's an interesting idea. I'm glad to I'm excited and glad to have people thinking about other ways to make this all work. So thank you very much for that. Really great. Appreciate your question. Hope this answers some thoughts. What do you guys think as the listeners to this video? What are some ideas that you might have for changing this business, and how do you think things might evolve and shift going forward? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, but most importantly, thanks for listening.